Oh, so welcome everyone to this release webinar for Boardon 2.2. We have started a new way of managing our development in sprints. So we are now looking to do at least 3 of these releases a year with a bit more tempo than before, but also being more flexible in what we add for each release. So we will do a sweep with our customer base on what's important and try to prioritize that, and also then checking how much we can squeeze into each release, and also try to make each release logical. So I have a couple of things I'm going to go through today. The one is new and improved look and the quiz maker. Also going to look at the new administrative role, and the big new function, of course, is phases or onboarding, pre-boarding phases that you can use. And that you can combine that with email change. You can change your email at a certain date. So it's quite a boost in automation, and also to be able to be more specific with the content you want to share with your new employees. But let me get started with saying that after I've gone through the new functions, I will open up for questions, and we can do more detailed questions for each. So for a big thing that doesn't show is that we actually have remade the whole administrative interface in a new version of Angular, which is our development platform. It shows in a bit adjusted like selectors, pickers, date selectors, and so on. And also that we have tried to make the user experience a bit more stringent, a bit more focused. So if you look at the old one, I have a screenshot here. It has more. We have changed the typefaces. You have this top bar that's present. So it's easy to find where you are, easy to see the actual workspace you're working in, and it's a bit, lots of small changes there, and of course a newer technical baseline. So you're again met with these guides that we have for adjusting design, for creating plan, and for inviting users. So the main 3 functions of the system. You can also see that you have, if you're a new user, you can also see how, if you haven't done these 3 things, you will get a notice here. So it means that all views are updated with this new framework. There's some things done here in the front page settings and so on, but it's smaller things, but I think you will find it a bit refreshing, a bit faster, a bit nicer to work with. So another big thing we did was to change the quiz maker, so it looks a bit nicer. You can now, when you add content and you add a quiz, it's now much more easier to add options and also get an overview. An overview of these options. Like this. So it's easier to find, easier also to add another question. And when you do add another question, it's collapsed, so you can see the old questions here. You can open them up again and re-edit them, and you can have the new one here down here and work with that, and also set a passing score for the whole quiz, of course. So this is also a starting point for adding more functionality to the quiz maker. We are planning and systemizing for surveys and more feedback questions, and we needed to redo the interface here for the quiz maker first. We also added a new administrative role. Today we have these. Before we had 4 roles, now we have 5. Now we've added a in-between role between administrator and supervisor with user access. We couldn't make a better name for it, but we call it supervisor with user access plus. The difference between these two are that the supervisor with user access, they can check the user list, but it's a locked filter for only the ones that they have created. If I'm info, this filter would be locked for me, and I could only see the users that I have created or that has been assigned to me by a higher level administrator. So this is a way of having division managers or group managers or recruitment officers and so on only be able to access the users that they have been involved in for reasons of data protection, of course. And the new role is meant to cater to companies that has trusted employees that needs to be able to work with the whole user base, but that does not have to work with content in plans or work with the front page settings and the account settings and so on. So this supervisor with user access plus will be able to add users and send out invites and check the reports, and they will be able to change the filter here to see the whole user list for the whole company or the whole organization. So that's a big difference. It seems like a small thing, but we needed to redo some tables to make that happen. The default value should be that the filter is active, which means that in most cases, these new administrators will not have access. They will not at least see all the users, but they can actively redo the filter and see the whole user base. Next step of this would, of course, be to have a division filter for the users, so it's not connected to the administrators, and that's something that we have thought about, and that we will also make a round with our user base to check how important that is compared to other functions for the upcoming releases. If you do add a division filter, so we can manage organizations divided into parts or compartmentalizations, that will also mean more administrative work for when setting up new users and importing users through the API or other imports functions. Right, sorry to expand on that, but it's a small feature which has large implications. But that's for the small stuff. Let's get into the big new function, and it's what we have done is that we have added a new function. You see this dotted line here. I can remove these. I did this yesterday on the webinar. We have a new function here called faces, and I can add as many of these faces or barriers that I want. And what this means is that if all content before this barrier, let's check it. The most common case would be that the onboarding starts at day 0 or 1 day before. This means that all content after this barrier will be locked until this time actually occurs. And this will be individual for all users because it's the day -1 is connected to their first day at work. So now you see in the in the right-hand preview, the meet your colleagues and welcome is hidden from me now as a user because I've added this onboarding barrier. So I can have a flow of content up to a certain point of date, and then after that, a new phase arrives. I can check the content here. I can reveal it, but it's locked. If you combine this with the locked task order feature, it means that you actually can be very can control the process very tightly, but it's also automated. So you only have to do this setup once, and it will be made available for all new users. There's no limit to how many of these barriers or phases you can add, and you can also preview them easily here as an administrator by just clicking and checking what's in the second phase and so on. So typically, I would say that the most common case is that you have the pre-boarding before the first day at work, and then you go into the onboarding phase as a second setup. But we also see customers already trying to might divide the onboarding process as a whole into 4 or 5 or 6 steps, and you have one of these barriers after each step or after each week. So you have a certain flow of things, so you can't do all the content at once. What I would like to urge you to do is to add one of these reminders after these barriers, so people are not left hanging. So after one of these barriers has occurred, you might want to send out a reminder, new content available, you're now entering phase 2 of your onboarding, or whatever fits your process. So you have these help the user to be active and re-enter the system when a new part of the plan is unlocked. That would be my recommendation for these, at least. Great. So that's the big thing. It seems like a small divider, but it has a lot of implications and system-wide things that this changes. And once you add these barriers, you need to be aware that people can't see all the content. So you have to be specific what type of content you place before and after these barriers. I will take questions on this afterwards, but now if you combine this feature with the new password, the new email change, if I save this plan and I go into the user list, we can create a new user. If I have one email, private email before my first day at work, I can now, under the advanced tab here, enter my work mail address here. And in the next step of the process, I can, in the same manner, under advanced, I can change the email at a certain date, and that will be replaced by the work email. Will be replacing the first added email. And the default value here is the first day at work. So it's the same first day. If it's set here 30 days from today. If I change this, I also have to change, of course, the email change date. Maybe it's not actually always the same day as first day at work as the work mail is active. It could be active a couple of days before, or it could be one day after or something, the first day at work. So be careful with this email change date. I got a good question on the webinar yesterday that we might need to inform the user that they have changed the email, and that's a good point. You could use the plan. I'm changing back to plans now. You could use the plan and set a reminder when this email change occurs, and in the reminder it states that your communication will now be, or tomorrow your communication will be handled through your work email. That's a good idea to keep the users informed that the method of communication will now change. And so now you have actually three ways of communicating. You can have your private email, you can have your work email, and you can have your phone number. So that would be 3 ways of communicating.